Hello, this is Lord's Legion yet again with another countdown. Now, some of you are aware that Batman v Superman is a bad movie. However, there are comic book films that are even far worse than Batman v Superman, and I'm about to tell you the 15 of the worst comic book films of all time that are more worthy of having that title than Batman v Superman. Now, before I begin with this list, I just want to point out that Batman and Robin will not be on the list because it's just easy pickings, and also the likes of Superman 4, Supergirl, Steel, these errors will not be on the list because they are outdated as fuck, and again, they were very limited for its time. So let's get onto the list. Kicking off the list, we have Daredevil, the theatrical cut. Now, to be honest, it has some redeeming qualities, such as Ben Affleck being decent as Daredevil, in my opinion. The villains, Bullseye and Kingpin, were phenomenal, and the decent action scenes were pleasing to watch. However, the problem is, for one, the pacing is very off, which was fixed in the director's cut, and I love that version. However, also, it feels outdated in the sense of it being like the traditional 2000 superhero film. And to be honest, at that time, it was probably the best Daredevil we could have got at that point in time. Whereas we've got now, where we have a darker Daredevil in the TV series. But for what we had at the time, it was pretty good. But if you want to watch Daredevil, I suggest the director's cut. Next, we have X-Men Origins Wolverine. Now, again, there are redeeming factors, such as Hugh Jackman being amazing as Wolverine, as always, and also Ryan Reynolds was good as Deadpool before he became Weapon 11 or whatever, and Sabretooth was phenomenal, and he was the definitive Sabretooth in my eyes, and also the action scenes were good. However, they butchered Wolverine's origins so much, crammed too many mutants when they didn't have to, and not only that, they butchered too many of the characters, like I said, Deadpool. Now, again, it's low on the list because if you can forget about all its flaws, you can have a fun time with Wolverine. However, if you want to see a better Wolverine film, then I suggest The Wolverine. Next, we have Superman Returns. Now, I'm not gonna lie to anyone, but I can barely remember anything about this film, and apparently nor does anyone else. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Superman Returns was very pleasing to the eye, and he captured Superman rather well. However, the problem with that was barely anything happened, there was little to no fight scenes, and it kinda just felt like the same old thing over and over again. But the thing is, Superman Returns could have been great. However, it was just released at the wrong time. And what I mean by that is that it could have been great within the 90s, however it doesn't hold up now. Now we get to Spawn, a film that looked crap back in the day and it looks crap now. To be honest, Spawn should not have been adapted this soon, because not only did it look so outdated, but also the fact that Spawn was probably as watered down as possible. Again, Spawn himself was a fine choice, and he acted the part well. However, the thing was, it was too watered down, it was too kid-friendly. In other words, it just doesn't feel like the Spawn from the comics. Although it was relatively accurate, I'd say, it's just not very good and it was very cheesy. I have to be honest, I am not a huge fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I can understand the appeal. Though, with this film, it just doesn't feel like the Ninja Turtles. The characters themselves just feel like stereotypes of themselves. Shredder is as bland as any bland film could get. Megan Fox was just terrible. The effects just look weird. The turtles themselves look like garbage. And the story was just ugh. Now, it's low on the list because it has some decent moments, but for the most part, I'm just not digging the Bay version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now we get to the real shit. And although both versions of Aliens vs Predator is complete crap, Requiem takes the cake because it's about as bland and as original as you could possibly imagine. They decide to go with a Pred alien, and they also have generic characters that are meant to be cardboard cut out of both Alien and Predator series, and all the fight scenes are so dark you can barely see anything. And again, it's a terrible movie because it's lazy, it's dark, and nothing really happens. How I liked this film as a kid is beyond me, but it's so disgusting what they did to Ghost Rider. Now Johnny Blaze is so watered down and so butchered, it's just disgraceful. And not only that, Blackheart is just a Twilight reject and is nothing like the badass that he was in the comics. And not only that, they ruined Ghost Rider's origin story right down to its core and made Ghost Rider just a laughable piece of crap. And also, the effects are terrible, the fight scenes are awful, and just about everything about this film is just nasty to just watch. Say what you will about the Spirit of Vengeance, but at least Ghost Rider was done well, and although it's nothing high art, it's a fun film, and I could just watch that any day of the week instead of this piece of shit. Well, look who we have here. We have Green Lantern. Now, although it's not as bad as some of the mentioned films onto this list, what hits about Green Lantern is the fact that there's so much talent into this film, and yet it just falls flat on its face. Now, Ryan Reynolds, decent choice, not my first, but he's good regardless. However, he was so bland, the film was bland, the CG is bland, the story's bland, and not only that, it was meant to kickstart the DC Cinematic Universe, and instead it just delayed it even further. And it's just so ugly to see all the CG overload. The Fantastic Four has never had a good run now, have they? And to be honest, this is one of the worst, because not only the fact that he butchered Galactus, but they also reused Doctor Doom again for no reason, and the story just made no sense and he never explained certain aspects. Don't get me wrong, the Silver Surfer was just amazing to watch, but everything else was just trash. And even the cast of the original Fantastic Four could not save this film. The story was terrible, they rehashed certain things, they didn't explain certain things, and overall was just a boring mess of a film, and somehow even worse than the first film. Believe it or not, a film about the Incredible Hulk just smashing everything is just so boring in this interpretation. Not only the fact that the story is so bland and butchered the Hulk's origin, but the Hulk himself looks so fake, it's unbelievable, and he looks like a turd, and he used Hulk dogs, and he used the Absorber Man, and not even used the full character, and instead changed into his dad. And then ultimately it's just a mess, and the transitions was awful, and the acting is awful, just everything about this film is just awful. It's so forgettable, you might as well just forget that it's never happened, and let's move on with the list. Oh, now we're on to another forgettable movie that butt-fucked Elektra so hard. And honestly, just because that she's wearing a red outfit does not make her a better Elektra. She is still a bland Elektra. Don't get me wrong, she was fine in Daredevil, but she was so terrible here. And not only that, it was just boring. They introduced Stick for no reason, and they have Elektra just fighting demons or some shit, and I just can't remember anything, and it was so boring, and I just remember it being complete and utter shit. And I apparently don't seem to be alone in this, because a lot of people hate this film as well as I do. It was inevitable that X-Men The Last Stand was gonna be on this list, and believe me, it has its right, because it butt-fucks so many of the characters and butt-fucks many of the storylines. The Phoenix Saga, ruined. The Cure storyline, ruined. The Phoenix herself, ruined. Archangel, ruined. Magneto, terrible villain this time around. Half the mutants, cured. And There's so much horrible things to list, like I could just break it down bit by bit, but it'll just be repetitive at this point. X-Men The Last Stand is quite possibly the worst X-Men film to come out, and considering that it's a hit and miss series, that's saying quite a lot. And the trend continues with Spider-Man 3. Again, watered down version of Venom, watered down version of the New Goblin. The symbiote was just rushed. Mary Jane, horrible character. Spider-Man, completely a dickhead in this version. And the story is just so messed up. It has Harry's chapter, the Venom chapter, the Sandman chapter, the Peter chapter, the Mary Jane chapter. It's just a mess from beginning to end. And no one really likes this film for so many reasons, and it's so obvious to see why. Even Sam Raimi hates the film and says that he didn't want to do it this way. I much preferred his original take with the Vulture, but that's besides the point. Bottom line, Spider-Man 3 sucks balls. Are you surprised by this? Fan 4 stick is just horrendous in so many levels. The main 4, ruined. Doom, ruined for like the 4th time. And not only that, the story is just a mess, and all 3 sections of which are just not even the same film. They feel like completely different sections from 3 completely different films, and to top it all off, even the actors don't like the film. And thank God the sequel has been cancelled and it's getting buried under the ground. Now, do I really have to say any more about Catwoman? It's not even a Catwoman film. It doesn't even establish Gotham City. It's not even Selina Kyle. Batman's not even in it. There is no other character from the DC universe that's in this film. The story is bland. The main character is bland. The villain is bland. Everything is bland. And thank God this list is over. Thank you all for watching. And if you say that Batman v Superman is the worst film ever, just watch this list again and think about what you're saying. Thanks for watching and have a good day.